amid the ongoing conflict, this year's celebration is bitter and sweet because of the October the 7th atrocities, the war, the deaths, the injuries, the loss of homes, etc., which is also heartbreaking and very personal, as we are all one family. But we are witnessing a wonderful unity, and hopefully the similarities with the Hanukkah period in history can give us courage, hope, and emunah. Am Yisrael Chai. Yes, I want to keep this talk a bit about Hanukkah. I want to talk about the hidden city of Modi'in and take you back there. If you can just imagine, this is where the Hanukkah story started. Picture a small village on the main thoroughfare from the Mediterranean Sea to Jerusalem. And that's where the rebellion against the Greeks broke out. The cry, Mi Hashem Eli, rang out, and the young people of those days rushed to join the underground resistance and fight the Greeks, who were not satisfied with ruling Israel, but insisted on forcing their idolatry on the Jews. They wanted to destroy not the people, but Judaism itself. According to legend, Modi'in came about during those times of Antiochus IV. Matisyahu and his sons led the rebellion, and the Greeks set up roadblocks on the way and asked every Jew where they were going. They answered, Paneinu leModah, we are going on the way to Modah. In the Tanakh, Modah means close family or family member, and in this hilly region, all the Modi'im prayed and trained into a fighting force. The rebels' aims were to end the religious persecution and restore the temple, which they did. The name of the village was the home of the leader of the rebels, Matisyahu and his sons. He was a Kohen, and that place became Kfar HaModa'im, which over time became Modi'in or Modi'im. He and his sons all fell in battle. They were all buried near there, but we don't know the exact place. His youngest son in his lifetime had built a huge mausoleum over the family plot, which could be seen for miles, even from ships on the sea. All traces of the monument and the ancient village disappeared. For 2,000 years, people have tried to locate it, but they've never found it exactly. There are theories. In the Madaba map of the 6th century, it was placed near to Lod, and in others it was placed nearer to Jerusalem, and others nearer the coast, but nevertheless, it was all in this region. But there isn't a simple answer exactly. In the Talmud, it does say, we go from the books of the Maccabim, which show it to be in this area. The actual spot hasn't been pinpointed. The bottom line is that the city and the surrounding towns, all named after the heroes of ancient Modi'in, and you can see them as you go by in the bus from Modi'in to the outside. There's Modi'in, Matisyahu, Kfar Matisyahu, Hashmonayim, Maccabim, and they all ring out over Hanukkah especially. Even in early times, Modi'in was a bustling metropolis, and it became a symbol of the Jewish nation's struggle because of the rebellion which sprang from there. So naturally, that is where every stone tells a story of the perseverance of Am Yisrael, and that area became a natural and obvious location to establish the new city, which was going to be called Modi'in. It is in the center of the country between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and the groundbreaking ceremony was in 1993. Building began the next year, and in 1996, the first residents moved in. In today's Modi'in, it was called Media back in our times we're going to be going back to. The entire story began, but didn't end there. Just 3 kilometers away from there is another Modi'in, Modi'in Elit, which is the 3rd largest Haredi city in the country after Bnei Brak and Beitar Illit. It's a city humming with life, brimming with shuls and yeshivot and lots of children and schools. Okay, so in 1994, there was a startling discovery. A tractor in the building site in Modi'in Illit ran into difficulties coming across solid rock, and the vehicle was falling into a cave. The contractor wasn't surprised, as there was always the probability that there would be an archaeological find there, but he didn't realize the treasure about to be revealed. They found an ancient structure with a visible staircase running down, and it was obviously a mikveh. They halted all the building work. The mayor came down. He called in the archaeologists, and they had no doubt that this was a Jewish site. As the excavations progressed, they realized they'd uncovered the remains of ancient Modi'in. The main find was a large synagogue with a roof held up by columns, and there were tiled floors, and it was very impressive. The walls were with ornate carvings and engravings, and you could even see the location of the Aron Kodesh, and it faced to Jerusalem. Not all the synagogues at that time did face Jerusalem, but this one did. Nearby was the remains of a business area. There was a large olive press with trenches for the oil to pass through, and there was a large collection of coins, some of them hidden. The coins told the history of the region in many times, because there were coins found from the Herodian times, there were Roman coins, there was of the Seleucid kings, and there we get the history. There were many other structures found, including 3 cemeteries, which showed how populated the area was. The municipality didn't have money to continue excavating, so it fell to the government to develop it as a heritage site. Netanyahu said that one of the oldest shuls in the world was discovered there. In fact, it has never been made into a big popular tourist site, but it is very interesting, and it's quite small. If you go to see it, it's interesting. There are also 2 unexplored stalactite caves discovered nearby modern Modi'in, where tourists do visit today. The excavation I refer to is in Kiryat Sefer neighborhood, part of Modi'in Illit, where my son lives, which is why I'm quite interested in that site. Various wars meant the inhabitants left and returned, and there are signs that they left when the Second Temple was destroyed and returned at the time of the Bar Kokhba rebellion. Then it was left desolate for many centuries until the last one. Archaeologists kept finding new surprises. There were traces of more buildings and more mikvahs, and some of the mikvahs there was near to the olive presses, probably for the workers. Shuls were used as places of prayer and learning, even though the temple, there were synagogues in the time of the Second Temple, is what I'm saying. This one had a huge facade of hewn stone, and there were chiseled edges with precision reminiscent of stones used on Har HaBayit. There were steps along the side, and they showed real expertise of the workers in these buildings. Our knowledge of ancient synagogues was from literature until about 50 years ago, but 2 were unearthed at Masada and Herodian, both built by Herod. They were not used for prayer, but were later taken over by zealots. And then 4 more were later discovered, which were used by prayer over different parts of Israel, in Gamla, which is in the Golan Heights, and in the palaces of the Hashmonaim in Jericho, Modi'in, and finally the ancient one we're discussing, Kiryat Sefer. Those built before the Second Temple were usually small. This one was quite big. The actual date cannot be traced exactly. The coins are very interesting, as I've mentioned. To conclude, maybe the Modi'in referred to in ancient sources wasn't a particular place, but a large agricultural area that comprised all these towns and villages that I've named. In Sefer Hashmonaim, the area is called Modi'im, not Modi'in, and the suffix im in Hebrew indicates a plural, hinting at that the area wasn't actually a city, but a sprawling urban set of these neighboring villages and settlements, which explains why, despite much research and excavations, no remains of any large city were found. The locations of the graveyard of the Maccabees remain a mystery. I really find it interesting learning about history and archaeology in Israel, and it makes Judaism and all our festivals come alive. Jews were there, alive and active, just as we are today. The Hashmonaim dynasty was short-lived, just a few hundred years. They were the descendants of the Maccabees who ruled, and maybe, though, that's why observing Hanukkah, the spiritual side of our festival, is more common than celebrating the war so much. I repeat again what I said at the beginning, Am Yisrael Chai, and Shabbat Shalom to everybody.
Thank you, Irene. That was very interesting. The Modi'in also has a Crusader heritage as well. There's a big Crusader castle on the top of Modi'in, one of the hills there. Anyway, there we go. Stuart, if you